All right, Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers. Lions-Packers in Lambeau Sunday, 4:25. The Packers favored by 2.5 here, over-under 47.5 from our friends over at FanDuel. Another epic matchup right off the bat here to kick off the season. Micah Parsons making his debut
and
for
that's
the Green Bay Packers.
Official because his bank was, like you, his bank was flaring up. And obviously the
damaged goods.
The PR machine was in full swing. Dallas knew that he was banged up.
Can you believe that they picked up 2 firsts for a chronic back problem?
How did he even pass a medical?
Yeah.
You know?
Are you surprised that Green Bay's favored in this one?
Like with Micah Parsons there, I do think that changes things. We've talked before about how only really quarterbacks move the needle in terms of betting lines, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think Micah Parsons is one of the handful of players where if you put them on a team, it is transformational to like a big chunk of that team. Obviously it's not Micah Parsons being on the team doesn't really affect the offense to a huge degree. It affects it slightly indirectly, but he can transform the entire defense, not just the pass rush, in a way that, you put Jamar Chase on the Bengals when they didn't really have a number one wide receiver, and suddenly everything is different. Like T. Higgins is a superstar in large part because Jamar Chase is there, and that changes everything about the passing game. The same thing, I think, is true for the defense with Micah Parsons. Suddenly, again, Rashawn Gary goes from maybe slightly suboptimal number one superstar pass rusher to maybe the best number 2 pass rusher in the game. It's completely transformational. Those two operating in tandem change how the secondary works. Suddenly this group of slot corners that are all going to have to play outside, you feel better about those guys because of the pass rush up front. So I get it. I understand why. And a team like Green Bay was already skirting the fringes of an elite team. Well, suddenly now, is Micah Parsons enough to boost you into that category and maybe slightly above a team like Detroit, who the question marks, there are some question marks about for the first time in a while?
Micah Parsons generally lines up over the right tackle. I want to see how that's deployed as well, because Gary would spend most of his time over there too. So how are players always move around?
And also just how are they going to deploy him, period? We've accepted now for the last few years, and the number would suggest this as well, that he's just become a full-time defensive line pass rusher again. But this is also a dude that can play everywhere in the front seven. Does their plan for Micah Parsons include, joker up front that can move anywhere in the front seven? Or are they simply saying, this is our edge rusher on this side? Are they going to deploy him in the middle where they've suddenly got some they traded away Kenny Clark to make this happen. Kenny Clark was one of their best defensive tackles. Are they planning on lining Micah Parsons up in the middle on pass rushing downs to bring some juice from that kind of deployment? How they line him up is going to be fascinating, and where they play him.
Of course, the Lions have Frank Ragnow retiring, so you've got Graham Glasgow moving over to center. How about just the matchup that we're blessed with now for the foreseeable future? Micah Parsons and Penei Sewell twice a year. We got to see Micah Parsons and Lane Johnson twice a year in the other division. Now you get to see Parsons go up against Penei Sewell in Detroit, Darnell Wright in Chicago is pretty good, Brian O'Neill in Minnesota. You got some pretty good matchups here. But in this one in particular, I always used to highlight Gary versus Penei Sewell. Those are good matchups on that side. Taylor Decker on the other side for Detroit. So just like that first game, you've got some good edge rush matchups. Parsons is also great. Stunts, twists. His athleticism is outstanding if you could free him up because of his closing speed. And we've seen when you do put him in the A-gap or isolate him one-on-one with the guard, not every edge rusher does that. T.J. Watt doesn't move around a ton.
Right.
You see Myles Garrett do a little bit, but not a lot. Parsons does that a bit more than some of the other elite edge rushers, and that's the other addition that he brings. As you said, you can move him around and create pressure from a variety of spots.
And particularly this game where the interior is inexperienced and a question mark, right?
Yes.
You've got the one veteran presence there is changing positions, albeit going to one that people say maybe his best position. The other two guys are wildly inexperienced or complete rookies, complete unknowns. Unleashing a Micah Parsons into that group, just lobbing a fox into the hen house and being go nuts. that's chaos. Micah Parsons has that kind of quickness that just absolutely ruins interior offensive linemen for a group that is not used to playing together for the first time in a while in Detroit. That interior trio has to potentially now deal with a guy like Micah Parsons, who this might be where his freelancing, quote unquote, actually is a strength. Like, you don't know what gap he's about to hit. He's lined up in the B gap. Is he going to hit that B gap? Is he going to jump across into the A gap? Like, where's he going to go? Because he's got the quickness to do that. And, an interior offensive lineman is going to have to try and mirror his movements off the line, and that is not going to be easy.
So many fun storylines and matchups in this one. Aiden Hutchinson making his return.
Better than ever, allegedly. All right, that's enough of that, Steve. It's come to my attention that only 40% of people watching this are actually subscribed. So hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel a ton, and we appreciate it hugely. Now back to Steve.
Better than ever. Remember, he was on an incredible run last year before breaking his leg. Zach Tom on the other side. They'll be one-on-one for the majority of the time. So it's week one. So all of our offseason questions, we get to get some answers this week. What does the new look, is there a new look to Detroit's offense and defense with the new coordinators? Last year, they played a ton of man coverage. Are we going to see Terry and Arnold one-on-one with Matthew Golden? Second-year Terry and Arnold, rookie Matthew Golden. Are we going to see that matchup often? What does the Detroit offense look like? When we talk about play callers and scheme and system, a lot of times in football we think, well, this is a Shanahan guy. This is a Kubiak guy. I do this as well. Just because it's the same terminology and general formations and in plays that Ben Johnson ran, there's an art to play calling. There's an art to the field. There's an art to the game planning. So even if you're in the same system, you're not always coming to the same conclusions as to when to call certain plays. So I want to see that flow, that flow with Jared Goff, right? There always felt like when Ben Johnson was calling plays for Detroit, always felt like there was a flow to it. They were exploiting mismatches. They were exploiting coverages and often called the right play at the right time. And you're like, hey, look, there's Jamison Williams running behind the defense, or there's a wide open end around, or whatever they were running. Does Detroit still have that offensively? Because they're another team, run game, pass game at all levels. They can do it all as long as, the play calling and everything's on point.
I also want to see, are there any signs that, because I think generally this offense, from a schematic point of view, is going to move slightly away from a, details-oriented approach to one of more, let the playmakers play, let's just go with the flow type of deal. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that appears to be the approach they're going to take going away from Ben Johnson to what they have now. Are there any signs that is going to be problematic in this game? Or does it look like the same Ben Johnson offense with some added freedom in there, which would be a great thing? Like, can you see the lingering effect of Ben Johnson's installs and years of coaching these guys up? Or does that leaving immediately start to make this a little bit loosey-goosey in terms of how they work? That might not be a good thing. So, just what does this offense look like? Not just from, the plays that they're calling, but how does it actually look in terms of details? And, can you see negative signs of Ben Johnson leaving, or is his holdover effect going to be a positive with the new offense?
And then on the other side of the ball, Green Bay's offense, Jordan Love, our boss, picked him to win MVP, Mike Tannenbaum. Love battled injuries last year. Remember, in week one in the Brazil game last year, got banged up, missed the next couple of games, and was he was banged up for the majority of the season.
Yeah.
We never got to see we thought Love was going to be not a really volatile quarterback necessarily, but his highs were so high in 2023, and they all seem to come in the second half of the season, where you say, hey, if this guy continues this, he's on his way to superstardom. He's in that top 5 to 8 quarterback discussion. Those talks cooled last year. So now, against Detroit, right, with a lot on the line here, when you talk about division implications and what Green Bay wants to do, with a lot on the line, can Love get back into that conversation, show that last year, he wasn't bad last year, but he just didn't hit the same highs that he hit on that playoff run that they made in 2023. Can he get back to that? Is Matthew Golden as good as we thought we saw in person?
Yeah.
Does a playmaker emerge for the Packers? And again, on the other side with Detroit, do they have enough pass rush with Aiden Hutchinson, What does that scheme look like? Are they going to play more zone or be as aggressive as they were last year under Aaron Glenn?
Yeah, I mean, this becomes the referendum season on Jordan Love, right? Like last year, he was banged up basically all year. I think it is fair to say, let's kind of put an asterisk next to that. Now, people don't, right? Nobody remembers that when you're looking at stats, years in advance. It's just like, oh, look, that wasn't a great year. So it's fair to say that might not be a fair reflection of what he can be. It's also reasonable to say nobody's going to care when they're evaluating who he is. So this is the year he needs to show that he can become that player that he was in the second half of 2023. If he can't, then people are going to look at him and go, man, this guy's overpaid at that price. He's not an elite quarterback. Like, he's just another guy in the middle of the pack. And, you start getting the same kind of conversation that's swirling around Trevor Lawrence for similar, reasons. It's a big year for Jordan Love. And it's tied to a guy like Matthew Golden showing that he can be a number one weapon that they don't have. And, that again, like that's just going to be an interesting thing to see. Can they hit the ground running? Can this offense look like people think it can look like with that talent? Or, are you still going to see this inconsistency from all of them, from all those number 2 wide receivers that they have, from Matthew Golden, from Jordan Love? Just how that offense looks is going to be interesting.
All right, man. Packers favored by 2.5 here. As of record time, over under 47.5 from our friends and sponsors over here at FanDuel. Where are you going with this one?
I went with Detroit, though the more we talk it out, the less I like it.
Yeah, we don't exactly know what we're going to get from Micah Parsons. Hasn't practiced. We don't know if he's on a pitch count or, again, if something happens late in the injury report and we're unaware of something going down there. But I'm going to go with Detroit here as well, as will Harry. So across the board, we're all taking the Lions.
Pay the bills.
Appreciate you, Lions fans and Packers fans. We appreciate all of you. Never know who's going to pay the bills this year.
And the chat went with the Lions too.
Chad also went with the Lions. Oh boy, no one believes in. There's nothing more. You know what I've learned about in football?
What's that?
There's nothing more disrespectful. Nothing more disrespectful than someone picking against your team. Haters, all of them. Anyone who picks against your team, they never believed like you did. Disrespect.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
And the all-knowing algorithm is convinced you'll also like these videos, and who are we to argue?